Of course, I'd like to begin my reflections by thanking Dr. Ivany for his wonderful leadership here at the University of St. Thomas and for his gracious hospitality and for making my visit possible. So, Doctor, thank you very, very much for that. I'm also very grateful to Father Berenger and to George Drake and for the warmth of their welcome and their support. And finally, I need to mention my friend, Dr. John Hittinger, who first suggested this visit as part of the university's very fine John Paul II Forum. By the way, Dr. Hittinger is not only an excellent scholar and teacher, as some of you know, but he's also a gifted chauffeur and a wonderful conversationalist. So I'm very, very grateful for his friendship along the way. I want to offer a few thoughts about the Catholic identity of Catholic higher education. As I was gathering my thoughts for this morning, I remembered two articles. Neither one of them is very new, but each is even more important today than when it first appeared. The first was published on the web in 2002. The author, Francis Fukuyama, spoke at the Carnegie Council, the voice for ethics and international affairs, is how they define themselves. And then he took questions from the audience. His theme was our post-human future, consequences of the biotechnology revolution. So if you have a chance, you should read this. The council, the Carnegie Council, then posted the transcription to the internet. The second article appeared in 2004. Bill Joy, a scientist and mathematician, wrote it for Wired magazine. The title speaks for itself, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us. Our most powerful 21st century technologies, robotics, genetics, engineering, and nanotech, are threatening to make humans an endangered species. The article by Bill Joy. Each of these men has an outstanding mind. Neither, to my knowledge, is religious. Both are deeply pro-science and pro-technology. But both describe a possible future that should sober us all. A future where the technology we create undermines what we think we know about human nature, human rights, and human dignity. And the most unsettling thing about both men is that they have the insight to see and understand the problems we face. They also have the goodwill to worry about those problems, but they don't have the moral framework to offer any convincing solutions. In his Carnegie remarks, Fukuyama made an observation that's worth dwelling on for a few minutes. He said, quote, "When Thomas Jefferson was on his deathbed in 1824, Jefferson wrote, 'One of the reasons we can be optimistic about the future of the United States and of progress is that nature has not conspired to create certain people that were born with saddles on their backs and others born booted and spurred to ride them.'" Having quoted Jefferson, Fukuyama then added this comment: "The technologies we will have within the next 2 decades will give us the capability, in effect, to create people that are either born with saddles on their backs or born booted and spurred." This is not fantasy or science fiction. It's a fact, or very soon will be. So, if we want to know why a truly Catholic education is so urgent, and why a place like the University of St. Thomas is so important, the answer is right there in Fukuyama's words. As a nation, we've created a culture that behaves like the sorcerer's apprentice. Neil Postman once called us the world's first emerging technopoly, a society where the real organizing principle is technological progress in the narrowest sense, and every other social value is subordinated to it. We have the knowledge to unlock the power of creation, but we lack the wisdom and the humility to use it for real human progress. Our definition of progress is limited and confused. It ignores the most vital part of what it means to be really human, our spirit. We don't fully understand the power that we unlock or its implications. In fact, many of us no longer really believe that a unique and permanent human nature exists. The genius of a Catholic education is to anchor the yearnings, brilliance, and glory of the human mind in the greatness of God. Man has no security outside the guarantees of God's love. If we deny him, we deny ourselves. If we do not know him, we cannot know ourselves. And this is why, when Catholic institutions of higher learning soften or dilute their bonds to the Church, or treat Catholic teaching as somehow separate from serious intellectual life, they're not becoming more progressive or more relevant. They're choosing to be irrelevant because they have nothing new and confident to say to the world around them. They're betraying themselves, their students, and the culture that Jesus Christ calls them to sanctify. Jesus Christ is Lord. The Church is his bride, and the Church is our mother and teacher. And if these two facts don't burn in the hearts of a Catholic university, its leaders, its faculty, and through them the lives of its students, then it's just another cup of salt that has lost its flavor and its purpose. The greatness of the University of St. Thomas is not just your academic excellence, which is vital and admirable and does great honor to the great Catholic intellectual tradition. Your real greatness is the Christian humanism, given life by the Catholic faith, that educates and makes new the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. That's what sets you apart. Never lose it. Be Catholic, really, faithfully, unapologetically Catholic. And in the future, you will be the place that educates and sends forth into the world an articulate and morally mature group of leaders that the world needs. I began my brief reflections with a couple of voices worried about the future. I want to end with a voice from the past, who knew the peace of God's presence in a world just as confused and anxious as our own. St. Augustine. Augustine, as all of you know, lived his ministry as a bishop in an age when everything solid in the old Roman world was unraveling. His people lived with a constant fear and constant uncertainty. The encouragement their bishop gave them was this. Excuse me. He said, "Bad times, hard times, this is what people keep saying. But let us live well, and times shall be good. We are the times. Such as we are, such the times." My dear brothers and sisters, you and I, and all the lives of this wonderful university, all the people it touches, we are our times. And we can reshape the future with our zeal and faith and Christian love from this moment forward. So let us live well, and times will be good. We are the times, such as we are, such as we love, such as we do, such will be our times. So thank you very, very much. Philosopher's going to ask me a question that's dangerous.
Father, the question I have is a practical consequence of your speech, which I thoroughly enjoyed and completely agree with and thank you for. And that is, if a Catholic university such as ours, which is striving to be the kind that you describe, would it be advisable at this time in our history as a Catholic university to cut back on the required courses in either philosophy or theology.
You must be discussing that question. It's probably not prudent for me to respond, well, one of the dangers of the technological focus of our society is the fact that we aren't women and men who know philosophy and who know theology. And I think that the greatest part of my education was the part that I wasn't aware of. It was happening as I was educated in a classical way. And one of the things I'm constantly astonished at in my work as a bishop is how people just can't think. They just don't think. They don't have any experience to think from. And even some of the images that were part of our common past and from literature and philosophy, you can talk about those things today and people say, like, I even wondered when I raised the issue of the Sorcerer's Apprentice, how many of the young people here would have any idea what I was talking about, and if they did, it was probably because of Walt Disney. Mickey Mouse, remember the brooms and Mickey Mouse? So I'm very much in favor of providing a kind of classical background that gives us common experience and common language, and so I do favor a curriculum for everyone in a Catholic university that helps them to think and to live in the reality of understanding human nature and human dignity. So I favor philosophy and theology classes, but in terms of the practical application of that, I have to reserve move myself in that, and let your good president and those who have the responsibility to decide that. But it's important, very, very important. Yes, Father. This is a very famous man that I've wanted to meet for a long time. I think it's worth a trip to Houston just to meet you, Father.
Oh. Excellency, I love what you said about the recovery of Christian humanism, or the embracing of Christian humanism in Catholic higher education. And my life as an Anglican I thought that was the goal that we were working towards.
We always think you're superior in two last moments.
It was gone. By the end, there was not. I found those high aspirations that Newman and others talked about in terms of a genuine Christian humanism in the Catholic Church, because it provided the necessary support. My question is, how do you keep that wonderful goal alive when we are, many people are frightened by the term Christian humanism, and in the midst of the cultural wars, sometimes there doesn't seem to be any space to be pursuing such a high calling as Christian humanism when we're in the trenches. I wonder if you could speak to that.
I think when you study the history of the earliest days of the church, what made the church attractive was its humanism, the care for the widows and the poor and the sick, and in a way that the rest of society wasn't caring for them. So I think the way through those fears is for us to embody what we preach, which we sometimes don't do. We speak about it angrily in the face of this terrible society in which we live. And I think we have to be clear in what we say, and we have to be challenging, because these are worrisome things. But I think to embody them in our lives by having a Christian community, a Catholic community that's really loving and who cares for the poor, as well as a community that's involved in the cutting-edge thinking of the time, is the way we find our way through that. Because who wouldn't love the church if we were really the church, right? See how the Christians love one another? It was in Antioch that they first called us Christians, because we embodied the life of Christ. So I think Christian practice is the answer to your question. It's a general answer, but I think it's the authentic one. I think we might have time for one more, then it'll be off to work and school. Yes, sir. Texas Right to Life, right here.
The problems that have emerged recently at schools like Notre Dame, giving baccalaureate address position to a president is one of the most pro-abortion president that we've had in our history. Many years ago, Father Esper, some rising to the presidency, announced that he intended to make Notre Dame the Harvard of the Midwest. I think after he largely succeeded, somebody found out that Harvard wasn't a Catholic university.
Harvard used to be a seminary.
It was even when I was there.
Oh. They had one, yeah. But it was started off as a seminary.
What do you think went wrong?
Why did we want to imitate the universities in the United States that were religious in their initiation, but lost their religious identity? I don't know. It's a temptation to be like everyone else. You know, that was one of the great temptations of the early Christians too. I mean, they were always being challenged. Well, the Jews imitated the pagans. They wanted to be like the pagans. That's why they got a king. That's why they got King Saul, because they wanted to be like everybody else. It seems to me that's one of the great temptations that we have, to be like everybody else. And we should not want to do that. We should want to be like Jesus, like Christ. And that should always be the standard by which we measure ourselves. Now, I'm 65 years old, so I kind of know from personal experience that great temptation, that turn in the United States, that you said is embodied in Notre Dame, Father Hesper's decisions. I think if I had been 5 years older, I might have given into that temptation. And once you push an institution in a direction, it's hard for you to say that was the wrong thing to do, and it's hard to back off. So I think we just have to, all of us have to be willing to change our mind, because it was done for the best purposes, to make the church relevant, to make Christ make him welcome in every home, in everybody's heart, in everybody's mind. So I think there was goodwill in all that effort. But, and they say a sign of intelligence is the ability to change your mind and change it often. And I think once we see that something's not working, we need to say, let's stop and start over again. The bishops have this problem. You know, we have been slow to engage some of the issues of our time because we made decisions in the past that went a certain direction, and it's hard to say, well, it's not working, let's start over again. You know, we kind of get stuck in a certain mind frame, and I think we have to learn, the gift of conversion, which is what we pray for in Lent, has to be conversion of the mind as well as our lives, and we have to pray for that conversion frequently and ask God forgive us the grace to do that. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Archbishop, for your kind words and your insightful words. I'd like to give you just a small memento of your trip here in the hope that you will come back and let us show you the campus some more. This is a book on the Chapel of St. Basil, which is a recent addition, really, to the university's campus. It was certainly the heart of the university, and we hope that you will take this and enjoy the pictures as much as we enjoyed building the chapel many years ago, and at the same time come back and see us again.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Bishop.
And God bless the Basilians. I just want to say God bless the Basilians.
Thank you.